¿Estás seguro? Porque no escucho nada.
What? I was going to ask you who was reading Torah. Because I read this a bunch, but I definitely didn't learn it. Listen, our usual suspects. We're going to start in just a minute. Just give us a moment. But hi, it's lovely to see you all. See what happens? Yeah. This is still really far. We're going to be in page 214 in Lev Shalom. Joey, can you give it to me one more time? 226 in Slim Shalom. And 558 in Sim Shalom. Ashrei Beitacha Odialu Chasala Ashrei Shikacha Lo Ashrei Shadonai Elohav Tilal David. Tehillat Adonai daber pi, v'varach kol basar shem kodsho le'olam v'hed, v'anachnu nevarech yam, yatav yad olam, hallelujah, v'valet Zion, v'al shapeh shebekov nirmanu. Kadosh Yoshavti Lot Yisrael, V'Karazal Zavei Amar, Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzvaot Melech Haaretz Kevodo. Antisa'ini Ruach V'Shmacharai Rash Kol Ra'ash Gadol, Baruch Kivod Adonai Mim Komo. Adonai Imloch Leolam V'Hed. ויפתחו בחיות שמך, כי לא עזבת דרשך אדוני, אדוני חפץ למען צדקו, יגדיל תורה וידיר. So we do not have a minion on the field, so we are going to move into the Torah service, but we are going to read from a Chumash. So we're going to still turn around really fast so we can see everyone here also, and then we will read from the Chumash.
Parshat Pekude is found on page 564 in Eitz Chaim, or on chapter 38, verse 21. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Ele pekudei mishkan mishkan ha'itut asher pukad al pi Moshe עבודת תלמיד ביד איתמר, בן אהרון הכהן, ובצלאל, בן אורי בן חור, למטה יהודה, עשה את כל אשר ציווה אדוני את משה, ואיתו אוליאב, בן אחיסמך, למטה דן חרש, וחושב ורוקן, בתכלת ובארגמן, ובתולת השני ובשש, בזהב, עשוי למלאכה בכל מלאכת הקודש, ויהי זהב התנופה 29 כיכר, ו730 שקל, ושקל הקודש, וכסף פקודי העדה, 100 כיכר ו1,770 שקל, בשקל הקודש, וקל הגולגולת, מחצית השקל בשקל הקודש, לכל העובר על פקודים, מבין 20 שנה ומעלה, ו600,003 ו550, ויהי 100 כיכר הכסף, לצקת את אדני הקודש ואת אדני הפרוכת, 100 אדנים, למטה כיכר, כיכר מתן, ואת 1,775 הסבבים לעמודים, וציפה ראשיהם וחישק אותם, ונחושת התנופה 70 כיכר, 2,400 שקל, ויסבך את אדני פתח אוהל מועד, ואת מזבח הנחושת, ואת המחבר הנחושת אשר לו, ואת כל כלי המזבח, ואת אדני החצר סביב, ואת אדני שער החצר, ואת כל יתדות המשכן, ואת כל יתדות החצר סביב, ומן התכלת והארגמן, ותולת השני, עשו בגדי שרד, לשרת בקודש, ויעשו את בגדי הקודש אשר לארון, כאשר ציווה אדוני את משה.
So even though we do not have a minion, we will still offer al males. We'll start. Is there anyone here on the field who is hoping to say an al male today for a loved one? Zoom. Is there anyone on Zoom who was hoping to say an al male today? Okay, then we will proceed with services. We're going to turn you around again on Zoom. We are going to continue with the Whispered Amidah, page 223 in Sidor Lev Shalem, immediately after the Torah service if you are using a different Sidor. If you're still davening your own private Amidah, please continue. We will continue together on page 231 with Aleinu. Aleinu Shabbat Adon HaKol. Kagatu b'toratach Adonai melech le'olam va'ed v'nemar v'yonai l'melech kol haaretz b'yom ha'yeh Adonai echad u'shmo echad. Because we do have a minyan between on the field and on Zoom, we will say Kaddish Yatom together, page 232. Yit gadal ve'yit kadash shemei rabbah Me'alma divra kirte v'amlich malchute v'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye d'chol beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevarach le'olam olmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yit hadar v'yit ale v'yit halal shemi dekudasha b'rechu. Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. We are going to have a quick Sudat Shlishit break. If you're at home, grab a snack, grab a hot tea, or cold tea. It might be warm in your house. Okay, we're going to take like 10 to 15 minutes, so we'll see you back here like 5:25, 5:30. I'm going to grab some food too. Bring a snack, bring a drink, and we'll see you back soon. Hello, everyone. If you are on Zoom, if you're off floating and getting a snack, we're gonna get started. You're also welcome to enjoy your snack. So this week is one of my favorite days, possibly of the year, in a leap year. This week we have Rosh Chodesh Adar Bet. So when we have a leap year, it's really fun because we generally celebrate anything that's in Adar. You have to figure out, well, do you do it in Adar Aleph or Adar Bet? And so generally we do yahrzeits in Adar Aleph, and then we do birthdays in Adar Bet, and we have a lot of fun, and that's where Purim is. And I really love it, and I'm really excited. So I'm actually going to teach about Rosh Chodesh today. The Parshat Pekudei is very interesting, and I didn't necessarily feel like talking about the Mishkan much more. So instead, we're going to talk about Rosh Chodesh that is coming up this week, and I'm very excited. And you all can't see, but Tybal has a beautiful picture up of the cycle of the moon, which is amazing because that's where I'm going to end. It's like you knew. So we are starting. If you have the source sheet at home, great. If not, we are starting with Exodus chapter 12, verse 2. So just to let you know where we are, this is verse 2 of chapter 12. Verse 1 is, Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe lemor. Very exciting. Right before this, God says to Moses. But right before that, we are in the middle of the Exodus story. God has just hardened Pharaoh's heart. We're getting ready to go. And then God says to Moses, HaChodesh hazeh lachem rosh chodeshim rishon hu lachem lechadshe hashana. This month shall mark for you the beginning of the months. It shall be the first of the months of the year for you. So we get here, Rosh Chodesh, right in the middle of the Exodus story, and it's kind of this verse on its own. You're welcome to look at it if you have a Chumash or a Tanakh in front of you. And then it continues on talking about Korban Pesach and about leaving and about blood on your doorposts and leaving in the middle of the night and all of these things. So this verse kind of stands out on its own. So I have Rashi here, but not Rashi on this verse. Rashi at the very, very, very beginning on Bereshit, as in Bereshit bara Elohim. So in the beginning, Rabbi Isaac said, the Torah, which is the law book of Israel, should have commenced with the verse, this month shall be unto you the first of the months, which is the first commandment given to Israel. So there are lots of things to say about why did Genesis start where it is, but I want to focus on this idea that this is the first commandment given to Israel. Why do you think this might be? What's important about it? What is interesting about it, either in general or in the moment that it happens in our story? Why about Exodus? So about Rosh Chodesh. Like, what's interesting that it's the first commandment, or what strikes you that it's the first mitzvah given to the Jews, or what strikes you about that this is where it appears in our story, that it appears kind of stuck in the middle of all of this leaving Egypt narrative? Yeah. So it's actually before. So we've got an idea that it might be repentance for the golden calf, but this is actually well before that. The Jews are actually still in Egypt. So they have, right. So this doesn't come out of the most recent parsha, but I know where your head's at. This is coming chapters ago, excuse me. Right after God hardens Pharaoh's heart, before they make the preparations even to leave Egypt. So they're actually still in Egypt. Yeah, Fieldsmeyer family. I don't know who to. Hi.
Yes, hi. I was going to say, keeping time together, recording time together is kind of a way of being together as a family or as a people. And so the idea that we all have to go by the same calendar is part of the way of taking disparate people and joining them together as one. So
I love that. I love right now, especially everything that what ties us together and what makes community. It's something I've been thinking about a lot. And marking time together is a great way. Tybal.
In addition to what Tom said, one of the biggest distinctions between being a slave and being independent is control over one's own time and defining time, because when people are enslaved, they don't get to define time. I mean, another distinction too, though that's not part of this parsha, but I think it's why when archaeologists find coins that speak to the historic evidence for ancient Israel, because that's another sign when you're a polity, you can make your own coins. So keeping track of time doesn't take the same infrastructure as coins, but it's a step on the way to being a people with self-governance.
Sorry, I was paused because there seems to be a weird echo coming through. Like I'm hearing you again. Oh, I'm hearing you through the computer. Sorry, it was just like a weird moment. Yeah, it's really interesting. So this is coming. I think these two answers in tandem. You should just know, Tybal, you got a little from Cantor Torney that was also the point she was going to make. That you see these together, right? That there's peoplehood and there's independence. And I think independence is really big, and God is here preparing the Israelites to be an independent nation, which is really interesting when you read it in conjunction with a lot of thoughts about like who were actually the people who left Egypt, and so what made them a people. So other thoughts, or we'll kind of move on to the next. So next we've got Rosh Chodesh. It's a thing, it's important. It's the first thing we're told. We're community, we're independent. So the next thing I have is a source from Hulin, from the Gemara on the moon. And so because Rosh Chodesh is, as Tybal showed us, Rosh Chodesh is connected to the cycle of the moon. The Gregorian calendar goes by the sun, and we as Jews mark time by the moon. I just realized I had meant to wear my moon earrings and missed it. This week I'll wear them. So Hulin 60b, Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi raises a contradiction. It's written, and God made the two great lights. And it is also written, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night, indicating that only one was great. Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi explains, when God first created the sun and the moon, they were equally bright. Then the moon said before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is it possible for two kings to serve with one crown? One of us must be subservient to the other. God therefore said to her, to the moon, go and diminish yourself. She said before him, Master of the universe, since I said a correct thing before you, I must diminish myself? God responded, go and rule during the day with the sun and during the night. The moon said to God, what is the greatness of shining alongside the sun? What use is a candle in the middle of the day? God said to her, go, let the Jewish people count the days and years with you, and this will be your greatness. The moon said to God, but the Jewish people will count with the sun as well, as it is impossible that they will not count seasons with it, as it is written, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. God said to her, to the moon, go, let righteous men be named after you. Just as you are called the lesser light, Hakatan, there will be Yaakov Hakatan, i.e. Jacob, Shmuel Hakatan, the Tana, and David Hakatan, i.e. King David. God saw that the moon was not comforted. The Holy One blessed the HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, bring atonement for me, since I diminished the moon. And this is what Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish said, Reish Lakish, what is different about the goat offering of the new moon, that it is stated with regard to it, for the Lord. The Holy One, blessed be he, said, this goat shall be an atonement for me for having diminished the size of the moon. I enjoyed that. I was looking down and I hear it laugh. It was really great. So I just want to start with an open, What strikes you? What strikes you about the story? What do you think? Yeah, Joey. So Joey points out that depending on where you are in the moon cycle, you do see the moon along with the sun. Yeah. I did not know that. So Joey says that the waxing, so waxing and waning, waxing is when the moon is getting bigger and waning is when it's getting smaller. So a waxing crescent you see right at in the evening and a waning crescent you see before dawn. Learned a new thing about science today. Love that. It's true. Joey said I'm probably asleep at that time, which is very true in the morning. I am awake at like 6 p.m. I just want to name that. Rabbinical school is hard, but not that hard. I'm mostly awake at 6 p.m. Makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. So we've got pointed out that it feels like a folk tale, that there's space for everyone. Something that I really love about this is that I grew up loving Greek mythology and Native American indigenous mythology, and until I started learning Gemara, never realized like we also have our own stories about this, and I love that feel of this, that it really feels like those kind of ancient people myths that I wasn't exposed to in the same way as a child. Yeah. So we've got the comparison that the moon seems like a very Jewish character complaining and arguing with God, and then God is like, "I'll do this," and the moon's like, "Meh, not enough." And there's this kind of this back and forth. Anyone on Zoom? I don't want to call it the Fieldsmeyer family, but you looked like you might have had something. You don't have to. Also, it's exciting. Before you were blocked by the like thing on the screen, but now I can see you. So now I can see you talking about answering, but not answering. Um, I really do. I really love this story. And something that I think is so, and there's so much modern midrash about the sun and the moon. Um, but something that I think is so interesting is just in general is Jewish storytelling and the basis for it. And when the rabbis pull this huge story out of a simple, seemingly simple to us conflict in the verse, and they pull out this incredible story. So we are going to move on to some halachic material. We're going to stay on the topic of the moon, and we're going to move on to a little bit of halachic material from Pnine Halacha. So this is a very profound concept, but on a simple level, the moon's reduction symbolizes the deficiencies that exist in creation, the descent of the soul when it arrives in this world, and all the failures that man experiences during his lifetime. All these failures and deficiencies are prerequisites for subsequent growth because coping with hardships helps one reach higher heights in the end. As Rabbi Abahu says, the holy righteous cannot stand where penitents stand. In the meantime, though, people commit sins that cause great pain in the world. In order to relieve this pain and repair the flaws, God commanded us to sacrifice a goat as a sin offering. This is the purpose of Rosh Chodesh, to show us how a new beginning sprouts from the moon's reduction, which happened as a result of its sinful indictment of God. Therefore, Rosh Chodesh is a good time for new beginnings and repentance. Indeed, it is a time of profound joy. However, until the world is redeemed from all its deficiencies, the joy of Rosh Chodesh is slightly hidden and it's not completely revealed. And it says here to see below, but I didn't bring that. So you'll have to look it up, but it is on Safaria with English, so it is accessible. So what do you think of this? How does it feel? How does it resonate? What does it bring more meaning to Rosh Chodesh? Does it feel like it's over justifying a thing that we know we're doing? Where does this sit with you? So we've got taken the stand. We don't need the story. We know it's a new beginning, a new hope. That the story about the moon is lovely, but we're a little overdoing it. Yeah, Joey. So we've got agreement with Bob from Joey that Rosh Chodesh is a renewal on its own. I'll, oh, Cantor Torney. So I got asked in a much more eloquent way than I'm going to phrase it for all of you on Zoom and YouTube. I got asked what I think of this statement. Makom sheba alei tshuva omdim tzadikim gmorim enam omdim. So that in a place that someone who is wholly righteous, as it's translated here, can't stand where a Baal Tshuva stands, and also applied to converts and in this idea of Rosh Chodesh. So I'll start with saying that I find most of this text really challenging. I that piece actually I find less challenging than most of the rest of this source, but I think there is something to it. And it's something that I actually really love. Sometimes I have a lot of challenges with the rabbis of our Gemara. I could talk all day. There's an entire Parsha class where my point is that the rabbis overstep. But this, I think I love, that they know that none of us are perfect people, and they know that they are not perfect people. And so some of it might be self-apologetics, but it's also creating space. And it's something that I love in the history of Judaism, and something I love about Chassidut and Hasidic movements in the original days of Baal Shem Tov, was that the whole point was that Judaism had become this elitist, I don't want to call it an elitist machine, but an elitist group of people. And the Baal Shem Tov and the Hasidim said, no, it's for all of us. And for that, I think I really love this piece. And I am unsure how to frame it, particularly in the context of Rosh Chodesh. I think just that we all get renewal, and there are ways of looking at how do we use Rosh Chodesh for atonement, particularly, and how do we really kind of lean into this goat offering that's tacked onto that, which is so interesting. If you read the verses, the goat offering is tacked on at the end, like it brings all of the regular offerings, and it says, and also bring a goat. Don't forget. So I think there's also opportunities for that to remind ourselves that there's an opportunity here. Fieldsmeyer family, now you've got a hand up. Oh wait, hold on.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. I don't have the text in front of me, but part of it made me think of when our son Ezra had his bar mitzvah, and it was on Shabbat, Rosh Chodesh, and he was learning about Rosh Chodesh. And one of the things that he noticed was most of our big holidays are about things that happened a long time ago, about Pesach and Shavuot, and we're commemorating those things. And Rosh Chodesh is about what hasn't happened yet. It's about the potential. It's about the month ahead. So he said something like we're remembering things that didn't happen. We're remembering the future. That like it reminds that Rosh Chodesh comes every month and reminds us of the future. And I think that in our ancestors, it was this cycle that they saw over and over, and it kind of gave them faith. And then you can translate that like the faith that it will have, that the future will come, the month ahead will come, also shows that we have potential within us, that whatever we're lacking, we can fulfill that, or where there's hope that for us in the time ahead.
I love that. When I get to my conclusion, you're gonna hear like strings of the same thing, but I really love you got me, you scooped me a little bit, but it's okay. It's worth it. I love this idea of that Rosh Chodesh is so different. I also, my bat mitzvah was Shabbat Rosh Chodesh. And I definitely not at 12, and even now have never really thought about that all of our other holidays mark something that's so distant from us, and Rosh Chodesh is very much our lives still today. I'm gonna sit with that. I really like that. Yeah. Hmm. So the question is, when do you celebrate if your birthday is Zayin Be'adar? I, Jackie Honig, would like to tell you to celebrate both because I think our world needs more celebration. I will also tell you, though I will confirm with Cantor Jordan, I believe you celebrate an Adar Bet is generally the tradition that we do yurtzites and other sort of sad things in Adar Aleph, and we do happy things and joy and birthdays because Misha Nichnas Adar Marbim Besimcha. But I still say celebrate twice because what our world needs now is a lot more joy and celebration. 2 birthday months. Live it up. Tybal.
Rabbi David Golinkin of the Conservative Yeshiva has a fascinating tshuva because he thinks that Yartzeit should be done in Adar Beis, but he covers all the opinions and he ends where you end in a way, but this is for Yartzeit, and some opinions say, or minority opinions say, do both.
Well,
Though you were doing birthdays, he was doing Yartzeit.
Fair. I understand that. So, it's confusing me that I'm hearing it again. So something that I love, I'm still sitting really with what Tom said, but I love Rosh Chodesh, and what I love about it is, and this is sort of what started to come out, is to me Rosh Chodesh feels like such a declaration of faith, and why this month, as we face this and the world around us, that we have, thankfully, many of us have been in sort of this protective bubble of Shabbat, but we will face in 27 minutes. This world around us, to me, Rosh Chodesh is such a symbol of faith that we look at this small moon and we know that the moon is smaller than the sun, and we know that it is small and it is easily hidden, and we celebrate it when we can't even see it in the sky. A number of years ago, I traveled to Israel when I was in college on a learning program called Israel Links. And we were sitting up at like 3 o'clock in the morning in Tzfat, as you do in Tzfat hostels. And Rabbi Zalman Blooming taught us a story about the moon and the Jews, and said that we particularly celebrate when the moon is invisible because we have faith that it's coming back. We don't have to see the moon in the sky to believe that it's there and that it's shining for us. And for me, it's such a statement of belief that we do this month after month. And we, as Tom said, as Ezra said, we celebrate what is to come, and we know whatever it is that it's coming. And it's dark when the moon is gone, and we know that there's going to be light again. And so my hope is that this Rosh Chodesh Adar Bet, where we will celebrate Purim together in person, God willing, in a few weeks, brings with it all of the light of the moon and maybe even a little bit of the light of the sun, and things will hopefully be better in this month than they've been right now. Shabbat shalom. Benching. Benching. We are going to do Birkat Hamazon. We're going to make a quick zimun, and then we will bench silently. So if you are on Zoom, you can bench. You can get snacks round 2, and we will be back in a few minutes. Joey, do you want to lead? Sure. We're going to give Joey a microphone, so you'll get to hear him too.
Shir hamalot b'shuv Adonai et shivat Zion hayinu kecholamim. Az yamale sechok pinu ul shonenu rina. Az yomeruva goim higdil Adonai la sotimele higdil Adonai la sotimanu hayinu semechim. Shuva Adonai et shevitenu ka afikim ba negev. Hazorim bedima berina yiktoru halachelechu vacho no se meshech hazara bo yavo verina no se alumo tav tehilat Adonai yidaber pi vivarech kol basar shim kuchul olam va'ed va'anachnu nevarech yah Me'ata v'adalam, hallelujah, hodu ladonai ki tov ki leolam chasto, mi'emalel gevurot Adonai yashmiya kol tehilato. Chave Ryan Avarech. Yehi Shem Adonai Mavarach Me'ata v'adalam, Birshut Chave Ryan Arech, Shechalnu Mishelo. Baruch Shechalnu Mishelo Tuvo Chayinu Baruch Baruch Shemo Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Hazan et Haolam Kulo B'Tuvo V'chein B'Chesed U'Rachamim Hu Notein Lechem L'chol Basar Ki L'Olam Chasto U'V'Tuvo Hagadol Tamid l'chasar lanu ve'yachsar lanu mazon lilam va'ed ba'avur shemo hagadol ki welzan umfarnes la'kol umetiv la'kol umechin mazon l'chol beriotav asher bara baruch atah Adonai hazan et ha'kol nodel Adonai.
Wait, I can't hold all those numbers at the same time. Okay, we're gonna continue with Mariv in the Lev Shalem page 264, and in Slim Shalom 138, 137. I was close. 264. Sorry, I have to find it in my own Sidor. There's too many page numbers in my head now. והוא רחום יכפר בון ולא ישחית, והרבה לשיבה פה ולא יאיר כל חמתו. אדוני הושיע מלכנו ביום קוראנו. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בדבר ברי ורבים. ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו. אל חי וקיים תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, המעריב והרבים. אהבת עולם בית ישראל עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות ומשפטים. ואהבתך אל תסירנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל, אל מלך נאמן. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. אמת ואמונה כל זאת וקיים עלינו, כי הוא אדוני אלוהינו ואין תלנו אנחנו ישראל לבוא. מלכותו ברצו קיבלו עליהם, משה בני ישראל לכענו שירה, בשמחה רבה ואמרו כולם, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורתי לא תוסף אלה, מלכותך ראו ונחה בוקע ים לפני משה, זה אלינו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי בצד אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והמיתנו מלכנו חיים, ופרסנו נצחת שלום. ושמור צאתנו בינו חיים ושלום מעתה ועד עולם. ברוך אתה אדוני, שומר עמו ישראל לעד. ברוך אדוני לעולם אמן ואמן. ברוך אדוני מצלחין שכן ירושלים, הללויה. כי המלכות שלך היא ליומי תמלוך בכבוד, כי אין לנו מלך אלא אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני, המלך בכבודו תמיד ימלוך לנו לעולם ועד, ועל כל מעשיו. We continue with the whispered Amidah, beginning on page 270 in Sidor Lev Shalem. if you're still davening your own private Amidah, please continue to do so. We will continue with Psalm 91, page 279 in Sidor Lav Shalem. Vayihinu Adonai Eloheinu aleinu, ma'aseh yadenu aleinu. Yikra eni v'nehu imona chibatzara achal tsehu ve'achbadehu orech yami masbiehu ve'arehu ki bishuati orech yami masbiehu ve'arehu bishuati. Continue page 2. We're going to flip back a little bit, page 216. Ve'ata kodesh yoshev tilot Yisrael v'karazel zav'yamar kadosh 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 Adonai tzvod melech haaretz kevodo. Vatizaini rach ve'eshma acharei kol rash gadol baruch kivod Adonai mimkomo. Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Adonai malchutei kayem le'olam lo me'omaya. We're going to flip back again. We're going to continue with Alinu, page 281 in Lev Shalem, or towards the end of Mariv, in whatever Siddur you find yourself in. Alinu l'shabech la'adon ha'kol, la'tikenu la'le'otzei b'shei. Kakatu v'teratach Adonai melech le'olam va'ed v'nehemar ve'Adonai l'melech kol ha'aretz v'yom ha'yeh Adonai echad u'shmo echad. Again, because we have a minion between the field and Zoom, we will recite Kaddish Yatom together. Yitz Gadal v'yitz Kadash Shemei Rabbah. Be'alma divra kirte ve'amlich malchute b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chaye d'chol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabam varach le'olam olmei almaya. Yitz barach v'yishtabach v'yitz ba'ar v'yitz ramam v'yitz naseh v'yitz hadar v'yitz ale v'yitz halal shemei d'kudasha b'richu. Leila min kol berchata v'shirata tush b'chata v'nechamata da'miran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shmaya v'chaim alinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav huya aseh shalom alinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. So.
I looked up and saw enough stars, so you know.
Bob is going to ask a question before we do Havdalah. Bob says this is such a wonderful teaching because he read it again and he's so in love with it. Okay, I'm going to repeat Bob's question because I love Bob's question, and then I'm going to hand this off to Jackie. Oh, I made a great face. It was a surprise face. It was a face of appreciation for a great question, which was in the days of goat-like sacrifices, expiation, avodat Kodesh, holy work, was done by way of goat offerings, and the text that our rabbinic resident Jackie brought us had God instructing us to make the offering in honor of God, for God, on behalf of God, as expiation for God, ostensibly having sinned by way of having diminished the light of the smaller of those two lights. And it is metaphorically, in the course of that story, a way of us doing self-examination for the things that we may have done over the course of basically any given month. And Bob's question, which I love, is what is it that we do nowadays? So I'm going to pass this to Jackie to answer.
So I'm going to give you a two-part answer. I'm going to give you the simple answer and the channeling my inner Rabbi Cantor Hillary Chorney answer. So the simple answer is that as in general, tefillah has replaced avodah. We add in Musaf on Rosh Chodesh morning. At the end, we have a special Torah reading. We read actually from Parshat Pinchas, which is the part that I cited about the goat. We read that. Also when it falls on Shabbat. We add in about Shabbat and about Rosh Chodesh. So that's the simple answer to the question, but why be simple when you can be extravagant and when you have 2 minutes till Shabbat is over? It's perfect. We couldn't have planted this better. I think the bigger answer to the question is it's up to you. I think that nowadays we do a lot of ritual innovation, and we can say what is meaningful to us in this making expiation. Is that how I pronounce that? Yeah. Expiation. And it is about figuring out what is meaningful to you. And maybe it's tefillah, and that's great. And maybe tefillah doesn't speak to you or doesn't speak to any of you in that way. And there are opportunities. I recommend against anything to do with goats other than maybe petting them or some goat yoga. Though I think goat yoga could be like a fun renewal if it makes you feel good.
Oh, I like this now. Goat
yoga
as a replacement for the expiation process.
Petting goats, maybe visit a petting zoo. No, but in really it's an opportunity to look and think like what could be meaningful in this sort of way, maybe centered around goats or something dark or the moon, or maybe centered around something that feels meaningful to you. But whatever it is, there's an opportunity to mark this transition, which is also something I love. I love anytime I can close the door and be like, okay, this is done and we're moving into something new. I find it harder to do for good things, but really lovely to do for not so good things. So
I'm flattered that you said that it's channeling me, because I wouldn't have thought to say it, but it's such a great point that it's ripe for ritual innovation in that moment. And it's also a great way of saying it's very hard to move on to the next month that we're going into without doing the appropriate reflective work on what we would prefer not to repeat from the month past. So what you just described is a great way of saying, before I move into the next month, let's just go back and reflect on what it was that I did and perhaps I won't choose to do again in this coming month. So it's really beautiful. And thanks, Jackie, for a great teaching. So the best praise is the praise of one's students. So not one's teachers, really one's students. So you've really lit some light bulbs today, Shabbat-friendly light bulbs today, Jackie. Yishar kochech. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We're going to do Havdalah. Baruch HaMavdil ben Kodesh L'chol. It's wonderful to be able to gather together virtually and together here on the field to make Havdalah together.
I'm so excited to do Havdalah with you. It's such a treat.
We can jointly make all these fun things happen. Do you want to do the brachot? Sure. Okay, so I'll light the candle and we'll sing some Minha. Come on, little later.
Should we just use the matches?
Oh, I was about to say yes, but then
Oh,
look at that.
a
Look at
little
that.
flame that
A
could.
little flame that could. Ya nay na nay 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 ya nay na nay nay ya nay ya nay na nay 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 ya nay na nay 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 ay ya nay ya nay 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 ay na nay ya nay 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 oh ya na nay ya nay 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 ya na nay ya nay 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 Hine el Yeshuati Eftach velo hefchain Ki ozi v'zimerat ya Adonai vayehi li Yeshua, Ushaftem Mayim V'Sason, V'Imanei Yeshua, L'Adonai Yeshua, Halacha Birchatecha Sela, Adonai Tzevaot, Imanu, Niskav Lanu, Elohei Yaakov Sela, Adonai Tzevaot, Asher Adam Boteach Bach, Adonai Hoshia, Hamelech Yaneinu Yom Kareinu, La Yehudim Haitahora, Vesimcha Vesason, Vikar Keiti Elanu, Kos Yeshua Tessa, Uveshem Adonai Ekra, Yainenai, 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 Yainenai.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei minei besamim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei merei haish.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamavdil ben kodesh lechol ben or lechoshech ben Yisrael amim ben yom hashvi'i l'sheshet yemei hamaseh. Baruch atah Adonai hamavdil ben kodesh lechol.
Amen. Hamavdil ben kodesh lechol, Hatoteinu imcho, Zareinu v'chasveinu yarbe harbe kachol, V'hakochavim b'layla, Zareinu v'chasveinu yarbe kachol, V'hakochavim b'layla. Shavua tov, 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 Shavua tov. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishvi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu.
Yeah, it's all the way down. I guess so, yeah, okay. Oops, what?
Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben David.
It's just gonna end. We're not in the meeting anymore.
They turned off the camera, the picture. Yeah.
What?
They turned off the picture.
That's Gary and Martin. We're here. So it's just gonna cut off somewhere. We're just out of the meeting. They might be able to hear us though. Still, ask them.
Shavua tov, everybody. It's great to have been with everybody, and wish again a yishar kochach to Jackie, 8 a.m. Online for our morning minyan tomorrow morning. Wish everybody a pre Rosh Chodesh Adar Bet Tov.
Chodesh Tov.
Such a horrible today. Okay.
What? Oh, you wanna come over?